Another executive order signed by President Trump today. That makes 66 total, if you're keeping track. By the way, we're not even a month into his new term. This new order expands access to IVF. It's a subject we've tackled before and we will tackle again. But tonight, let's focus on another of the president's orders. You know, there's so many it can be hard to keep up. But here at 7 o'clock on WRAL, we are going to try our best. An executive order passed last week aims to make cuts to the federal workforce. One of the first departments losing staff, the U.S. Forest Service. It's time for another installment of our newest segment.
Order up.
Tonight, we are focused on this executive order. It's titled Implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Workforce Optimization Initiative. It calls for a plan to reduce the size of the federal government's workforce through efficiency improvements. It continues, agency heads shall promptly undertake preparations to initiate large-scale reductions in force. We've talked about that reductions in force here at 7 o'clock as well. Here's how this is already playing out. The Forest Service fires 3,400 people after deferred resignation deadline passes. That deferred resignation thing, it might sound familiar. Last month, Elon Musk and the new Department of Government Efficiency sent an email titled Fork in the Road to 2 million federal employees. It gave workers the two options, right? They could resign now, keep pay and benefits through the end of September, or they could stay on the job with no guarantee they would keep it. A federal judge refused to block this, and the deadline for workers to make their choice has now passed, and that's why thousands of Forest Service workers are out of a job. It's led to headlines like this. U.S. Forest Service layoffs raise concerns over Colorado wildfires and economy. Workers have called it a slap in the face and like having the rug pulled out from under me. Here's how one worker in Washington State put it.
All the people I work with are like family, and just imagining not working with them anymore it hurts.
For many of these people, working on our national forests is their dream job. A woman who was just fired from her Forest Service job in North Carolina posted on Facebook. She writes, "I'll tell you that when I first opened my Forest Service uniform, I held my badge and cried. I was so proud to be part of the agency." Jennifer Bunty says she spent the last several months working on cleaning up after Hurricane Helene, and she's not the only one. The Asheville Citizen-Times posted this today. U.S. Forest Service workers' firings threaten Helene recovery in western North Carolina. The Forest Service is part of the USDA, and we reached out to them about this. A spokesperson told us the new Agriculture Secretary supports the president's orders. Their statement goes on to say, to be clear, none of these individuals were operational firefighters. And that's probably smart. You know, firefighting is one of the most important parts of the Forest Service. Earlier this month, in fact, they responded to a fire in McDowell County. It burned 644 acres. About 100 people worked to put out the flames and the hot spots. Many of them work for the Forest Service. Last year, the U.S. Forest Service made up about 4% of the total USDA budget. That's a little over $8 billion. $2 billion went to wildfire prevention. But consider this. Every year, national forests contribute $15 billion to the U.S. economy. Clearly, the Forest Service doesn't just work on wildfires. Last year, Forest Service workers planted 10,000 red spruce trees in North Carolina. They kept a close eye on peregrine falcons nesting in the mountains to protect their young. And then there's the Hurricane Helene recovery. Forest Service workers restored the Black Mountain Campground. Forest Service workers restored a river crossing at the Roan High Knob. Forest Service workers cleared hundreds of miles of roads and trails. You might think all this stuff is great, really important. Or you might think they're just okay, or maybe something that the states should tackle. The president has made it clear where he stands. And look, we don't know if these layoffs will make significant changes to Helene recovery or wildfire prevention or conservation. I do, though, want to read you one more piece of that post from Jennifer Bunty, the Forest Service worker from North Carolina who just lost her job. She writes, "In my time working for this agency, I think I've made a difference. I talk with my daughters about how we can do hard things, and we should always do what we can with what we have, where we are at. I'm sure a lot of Forest Service workers are feeling the same way.